everybody, my name is Mrs Sharples and I'm an English teacher at Thornleigh Legion College. I really can't wait to meet you all once you start at school with us, and I'm so excited about the STEAM Award and the English components of that award. The Gold Award involves you learning how to give an effective spoken presentation. The spoken presentation will be autobiographical, namely a spoken presentation about yourself. The evidence required to achieve the Gold Award is that you present a spoken presentation of about 2 to 3 minutes describing the 3 greatest hits of your life so far, your 3 greatest achievements. Let's just have a quick revise of what is a spoken presentation. It's a verbal form of communication whereby you address an audience sat in front of you on the topic of your choice. Firstly, you'll be doing this remotely, not in a physical classroom, so your audience will be a remote classroom. We'll be watching it via your Google Classroom return. It has to be an autobiographical speech, but you do have choice in the memories that you select. Some famous spoken presentations have been given by people such as Greta Thunberg on climate change and Martin Luther King on black civil rights. Now, if you want to just pause this presentation, take some time to watch Thunberg's speech and then Martin Luther King's speech, just use those links there so you fully appreciate what a public spoken presentation looks like. Now, how do you go about preparing for a spoken presentation? I personally feel a good idea is to actually write the speech out word for word. However, when you actually give your spoken presentation, you can't have that written script in front of you and simply read from it. Once you've written your speech out word for word, your next job is to reduce it down to a set of cue cards. And don't worry if you've never heard this term cue cards before in your life, I'll explain those in a second. When you are delivering your speech, you need to stand tall, make eye contact, engage the listener through your tone of voice and gestures. If you simply record your speech with your head down, reading from the full-length version, your delivery is going to be monotone and engaging. If you watch the Thunberg and King speeches, think back to those. They clearly build rapport with their listening audiences, and they didn't just read from a script with their eyes down. The first thing you need to do is make an exhaustive list of the most important aspects of your life so far. So you might want to think about friends, your relationships with your family, might be a really important achievement for you. Things that you've got an interest in or a hobby might be really things you like and you don't like. Maybe something's an achievement, you've disliked something and you've overcome that dislike and you actually like it now. Major events in your life that you consider significant, such as a holiday or an important memory. And finally, something else that might be a hit for you is if you've got a clear ambition for your future. Don't worry if you haven't. Some people don't at your age know what they want to do later on. But if you do, that might be something you want to touch upon. So your first job, make that exhaustive list of all your hits so far in your life, your achievements so far in your life. You now need to refine that list. The speech is 2 to 3 minutes long. We're going to have to be selective in the information that you talk about. So pick out your top 3 hits from your life so far. And these 3 hits will then make up the main body of your speech. When you come to write out your presentation word for word, before you reduce it down to cue cards, it will be split into these 3 sections. So the first section of your speech will be an introduction. Really short section to the speech. Aim to start your introduction in an interesting way so you hook the listener in from the start. It is best to avoid formulaic openings such as "Good morning everybody" today I am going to talk to you about. It's not particularly inspiring. Think of some effective strategies. to hook the reader in, such as a rhetorical question or a triple. Sometimes telling a joke can help, making people laugh. But just think of something that will hook your reader in from the beginning and really grab their attention. Once you've done your little introduction, you've then got the 3 most significant achievements in your life so far. They will be in 3 separate sections in the development section of your speech. You need to use markers to separate out the points that you make, and you could simply use firstly, my greatest hit is the friendship I made at primary school with Joe. My second point is gaining a black belt in karate. Use those discourse markers. Just then the people who are listening, they will know that you are describing 3 greatest hits. They can just help to hook them through your speech and keep a track on your speech. Final section will be the conclusion. You've got to make it really, really clear to the person listening to your speech that you are about to finish it. There's nothing worse than you finishing your speech and the person listening asking, have you finished? Is that it? It's got to be crystal clear that your speech is finished. It doesn't have to be overthought this. It's done by simply saying, in conclusion, these have been my greatest achievements of my life so far. I'm sure I will go on to bigger and better things. Thank you for listening to me. But then by having that clarity, the person listening knows that your speech has finished. What you actually need to do is go and sit down, get pens and paper out and write your speech out word for word. The introduction, the 3 paragraphs in the middle, hit 1, hit 2, hit 3, and then the conclusion. The next part is preparing the cue cards. Now it's relatively easy. Using cue cards will really lift the quality of your presentation immeasurably. By using cue cards, you're not relying on reading from a word for word text. You're free to interact. You can make eye contact, respond to your listeners, use gestures. You will sound, look and feel more present in the moment. Your entire delivery is enlivened. And again, think back to the Thunberg and Martin Luther King speeches. They were very, very in the present. They were very enlivened speeches. You're going to need 5 cue cards or 5 bits of paper. Card for your introduction with your notes for your introduction on it. Card with the notes on for your first hit, second hit, third hit, and a card for the conclusion. Do not be tempted to write the whole speech out on each card, word for word. You're going to need 5 cue cards. Once you've finished identifying each segment and giving a keyword or phrase, then write up your cards. It can then be useful to have highlighters to emphasise the key information on each card if you want to do so. Go through it from beginning to end, checking the sequence ideas, supporting material and the transitions, so it just flows. And it's best to do that by reading it out loud. I've always noticed that when you read something that you've written out loud, you spot things that you don't spot when you just read it silently to yourself. So read it out loud. Also time yourself, because you may need to cut out your speech, you may need to edit it down if it's too long, and it's a lot easier to do that at this stage. Remember, this entire speech has to be 2 to 3 minutes long. If possible, get somebody else to listen to you, your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, somebody who lives with you, and have them give you some feedback on the content, the structure, the delivery. Is there anything they pick up that you could improve? To use your cue cards well, you really do need to practice with them. So before you record your speech, aim for at least 3 concentrated rehearsal sessions. Try to use some sophisticated vocabulary, and just as when you're writing, you must use standard English. No informal language, please keep it standard English. When you're recording the speech, try to make eye contact with your listeners. Speak fluently and confidently, and if you've been rehearsing, you shouldn't find this a problem. The only way to achieve a fluent, confident presentation is by practicing it in front of somebody else, or if that can't happen, in front of the mirror. Use your voice to emphasise key ideas and sustain the listener's interest. So vary the tone and pace of your voice so we avoid that monotone delivery. The success criteria is in these sections. Have you written a well-organised speech? Have you maintained the listener's interest throughout by using a varied tone of voice, pacing, snaps and gestures? And have you used an imaginative vocabulary in your speech?
The easiest way to complete this task is to ask a friend or family member to film your speech. Once they've filmed your speech, you're going to have to upload this onto Google Classroom. Remember, you can download the Google Classroom application. Select the Google Classroom application, go to Steam Transition, find the Classwork tab and then select Gold. You'll then need to add an attachment. Remember to hand it in when you've finished.
Well done. You've smashed it. You've reached the end of all of your challenges for the English section of the STEAM Award. Congratulations.